JK Rowling is under attack, ladies and gentlemen. JK Rowling has pissed off some people. Now, this story is a little nuts, and it's hard to follow because I'm not really totally like into this world as far as like what a lot of these words mean and these acronyms. So we're going to be utilizing the internet a lot to figure out that. But it does match up well with the kind of cancel culture outrage thing that we were talking about earlier with Drew Brees. So let's get JK Rowling's tweet. So JK Rowling had a tweet, and it became this big transphobic argument. And people were saying JK Rowling is transphobic and whatnot. So let me pull up the actual tweet here. So JK Rowling tweeted, "If sex isn't real, sex isn't gender. If sex isn't real, there's no same-sex attraction. If sex isn't real, the lived reality of women globally is erased. I know and love trans people, but erasing the concept of sex removes the ability of many to meaningfully discuss their lives. It isn't hate to speak the truth." Oh, JK, you are not going to like 2020 if you think that it isn't hate to speak the truth. May I give you Drew Brees' phone number? The idea that women like me, who've been empathetic to trans people for decades, feeling kinship because they are vulnerable in the same way as women, i.e. to male violence, hate trans people because they think sex is real and has lived consequences is nonsense. I respect every trans person's right to live any way that feels authentic and comfortable to them. I'd march with you if you were being discriminated against on the basis of being trans. At the same time, my life has been shaped by being female, so I do not believe it's hateful to say so. My favorite sentence is I know and love trans people, but I think we all know how that goes. That's the classic, look, man, look, I got black friends. Or, look, man, gay people love me. Like, that is the cornerstone of when you know things are not going well in an argument. If you hit the fire extinguisher, like the remove in case of emergency, and you use I have plenty of gay friends, I have plenty of black friends, you have lost the argument. You need to hightail it out of there. Things are not going well for you at all. I can promise you that. No one has ever utilized those two, any kind of phrasing like that, and won the discussion. So be wary of that. Now, people came out and said that she's transphobic. And a TERF, a trans exclusionary radical feminist. I don't know what those words mean altogether. Now, I'm not going to sit here and argue what JK Rowling actually said. I don't know. All right? I just don't know. I'm not into the trans world enough to really understand even what they're talking about. A lot of what I read to you from her tweet might as well have been in a different language. But what I will say is the reaction of people is J.K. Rowling is a TERF, J.K. Rowling is transphobic, and cancel Harry Potter. Do not read Harry Potter, burn the books, destroy what J.K. Rowling has done. That is not the way to do it. That will never be the way to do it. The way to do it will never be. Because this person has this ideal to totally, which it's important, same with Drew Brees, the ideal is not this inflammatory hate speak. It's different if J.K. Rowling is openly hating a group or she's openly oppressive. Then it's like, okay, well maybe maybe we shouldn't be putting that kind of stuff out there. Maybe, that's different. But this is a situation where she's just telling you what she believes, and it's not inflammatory. It's, it seems to be kind of middling, kind of in the middle of the road here. So I don't think, just like with Drew Brees, I don't think the reaction of destroy the books, burn the books, I don't think that's really the way to go. And if it's anything like the Drew Brees thing, all we're going to see is people say, look, JK, the only way we're going to trust you again, the only way we're going to read your books again, JK, is if you write a sequel within the next week, and we're going to tie you to this chair, but we're not oppressing you, we're just tying you to this chair. We're only going to trust you again and read your books again if you write a book within the next week. And I'm reading this letter in my mind, and the letter in my mind has those like ransom letters that all the letters are cut out from like magazines and they're all misshapen. You know what I'm talking about. And it's going to say, you have to write this sequel in the next week, and the sequel has to be where McGonagall gives Hermione a spell, and Hermione is going to give Harry Harry's going to transition throughout the book. And so Harry is going to transition from male to female in the book using McGonagall's spell that she gave Hermione, and Voldemort is in blackface, and they have to destroy Voldemort, who is a police officer in blackface. If you do that, J.K. Rowling, if you meet those demands, then we will trust you and we will read your books and everything will be good. That's pretty much where we're moving here. That's pretty much where we're pushing. And, it's just one of those things where you can, it's not, you don't have to go all in all the time. You don't have to say, oh, well, J.K. Rowling has a different opinion than the trans group here. Okay, let's see here. Yep, let's go ahead and cancel Harry Potter. People are, in the comments and all that stuff, are just replying with, Harry Potter sucks. It was never that good anyways. It was never this. It was never that. Boycott it. And then you have people who are comparing Harry Potter to right now. Oh, this is where things get dangerous. So they're saying, oh, well, Harry Potter's 4,224 pages, and not once is there a mention of a lesbian. Why? What's up with that, J.K. Rowling? And I'm thinking, well, that shouldn't be a prerequisite. You shouldn't have to be there has to be some lesbian action. There better be some hot lesbian action in this children's book, J.K. Rowling. You got 4,000 pages to do it. I want lesbians. That doesn't have to happen. You don't have to tick every box. Every story doesn't have to have a prerequisite check of, is there a lesbian? Is there trans? Is there this? Is there this? Is there this? It can just be a story, And not to mention, it was written in the 90s. If you took a time capsule and went to the 90s and said, hey, all my people were trans rights, let's go over here, let's talk about trans rights, you'd get a lot of blank stares because not a lot of people in the 90s knew what the hell was going on. So to take J.K. Rowling's work from the 90s and take it into 2020, not to mention the craziest time in human history, place it here and then try and play Sudoku and figure out if she's ticking all the boxes, nothing's going to live up to that. We just saw it when they got upset at Jimmy Fallon for doing blackface 20 years ago on SNL. Now think about this. SNL is one of the most progressive left-leaning shows that's ever existed. And it is unabashedly left-leaning and progressive. So how much of a big deal is blackface if SNL wrote the sketch, pitched the sketch, did dress rehearsal with the sketch, did live the sketch, and then did not face backlash for 20 years? How really big of a deal was it? It is incredibly dangerous to try and take existing ideals right now and place them on anything in the past. We see this all the time, like with John Wayne. John Wayne got in trouble for homophobic remarks. Of course John Wayne had homophobic remarks. It's John Wayne. So people that do that, and Fallon apologized. And if you haven't seen it, the sketch is Fallon's in blackface. He's playing Chris Rock. And, I read the SNL book, and in the book it talks about how much prep goes into these shows where you pitch a sketch, the sketch, you do a table read, people basically vote on the sketch, then Lorne Michaels puts together the sketches, then you have to rewrite the sketches and kind of nail them down, then you have to do them a dress rehearsal. If they're good enough at dress rehearsal, then the sketch gets moved to the main show. Jimmy Fallon had to go get makeup put on. He didn't just do it himself. Jimmy Fallon didn't just pop up out of the bottom of the stage and do blackface and run off like a demon into the night. It was all a planned thing. Every step of the way, every check, it was okay. So people now, 20 years later, telling Jimmy Fallon, hey, you need to apologize, it's crazy. It's crazy. It doesn't hold up, and you can't do that. J.K. Rowling, what she said it yesterday. So take that for what it is. But don't turn around and be like, oh, yes? Yes, J.K. Rowling did say something transphobic. Also, did you know that there's no lesbians in Harry Potter? What? Who cares? Harry Potter is a separate thing. It's like Chris Brown. Do I like Chris Brown? No. Do I think Chris Brown's a good guy? No. Would I want to have a drink with Chris Brown? No. Would I want Chris Brown to date my daughter? No. Can Chris Brown dance? Hell yeah, he can dance. You can separate, things. Michael Jackson, serial pedophile. Does that mean that we need to eliminate Thriller from everything in the world? No. You can separate it. You can move it around. JK Rowling, whatever her tweet said, there's no point into going through the halls of Hogwarts and begging for people to transition. All that stuff is, once you go down that rabbit hole, things get really, really nasty. And what you end up doing is taking everything and destroying it all. And everything just becomes gray. Everything just becomes the same. Because nothing can be different, because if something's different, then it's missing something, or didn't include somebody, or was hate speech, or was negative, or whatever. You don't want to get to the point to where it's just gray this, gray that, and it's the same thing every time. Can you imagine if Harry Potter would have had all of a sudden you got a chapter on some weird lesbian experimentation going on in Ravenclaw, and then you go over to Hufflepuff and people are transitioning left and right. Then you go over to Gryffindor and Harry's rioting in the streets and beating a policeman or something. Then you go over to Slytherin and they're defunding the security at the school. You don't want that kind of story. So, again, I'm not here to argue about, is what she said transphobic? Is what she said this? Not interested in that. Not touching that. Okay, I'm not well versed enough in that. I'm happy to listen. But I will not be offering my personal ideals on if JK Rowling is in fact transphobic. Instead, what we'll stick with is just the idea that this cancel culture is out of control. Ladies and gentlemen, look, the whole point of this podcast is that cancel culture, and that all those values is a slippery road, and that road leads to disaster. You do not want that. Trust me. You don't want to be poking holes in everything. You do not want to be making sure everything is PC. You don't want to be making sure everything's inclusionary. You just want things to exist. Everything doesn't have to fit the 2020 mold. Everything doesn't have to fit. And by everything, I mean literally everything. People are going back. Harry Potter, Jimmy Fallon, blackface, John Wayne. Everything doesn't need to be the same. And if things aren't the same, the reaction shouldn't be wipe it off the face of the earth. Pointing this cancel cannon at people and trying to destroy people, destroy things, remove things from existence or history, that is not the way to go.